It's a very pleasant morning to one and all present here. Today, I have present my topic, the non-monetary theories of trade cycle. And we can see first the meaning of trade cycle. Trade cycle as refers to the fluctuation in economic activities, especially in employment, output, income, prices, profits, etc. It has been defined differently by different economists. And according to Keynes, trade cycle is composed to a period of good trade as characteristic by the rise in price and low unemployment percentages, altering with a period of bad trade characteristic by the fall in price and high unemployment percentages. The next is the features of trade cycle. And we can see the one by one. The first one, a business cycle is synchronic. When cyclical fluctuations start in one sector, it spreads to other sectors. Hence, a trade cycle is a wave-like movement. The period of prosperity is followed by the period of depression. The next is the business cycle is recurrent and rhythmic. The prosperity period followed by depression and vice versa. The next is the trade cycle is asymmetrical because the prosperity phase is slow and gradual, but the phase of depression is rapid. The next is the business cycle is not periodical because some trade cycle is a last for 3 or 4 years, while others it's a last for 6 or 8 or even more years. The next is the impact of trade cycle is differential. It affects different industries in different ways. The next is a trade cycle is international in character. Through international trade, the booms and depression in one country are easily passed to other countries. And that's all. These are also to be known as the features of trade cycle. The next is the phases of trade cycle. Generally, the business cycle, it consists of the two. One is depression period and other one is the prosperity period. And following diagram can be explained the phases of the trade cycle. And see the diagram, x-axis represent the time and y-axis represent the GNP, that is the gross national product. And see the diagram, there are the 9 phases is here or the 9 stages is here. And during the 5th stage, it is called known as the peak level stage. And during that stage, all the level of economic activity are very high. That is for namely the income, employment, prices and profit. All these are also to be very high. And the 1st to 4th stage, it is called known as the expansion phase or it is the prosperity stage. And 6th to 9th, it is the contraction phase or it is known as the depression stage. And next is the Schumpeter divides the trade cycle into two. One is the 2 phases of trade cycle and other one is 4 phases of trade cycle. We can see one by one. The first one, 2 phases of trade cycle. When the level of economic activity is above the equilibrium position, it is called known as the period of good trade. When the level of economic activity is below the equilibrium position, it is called known as the period of bad trade or it is called known as the period of depression. And the diagram can be explained, the 2 phases of trade cycle. See the diagram, x-axis represent the time and y-axis represent the GNP, that is the gross national product. And above the equilibrium position, it is represent the D, and below the equilibrium position, it is represent the F. So the CD, it is the prosperity period, and DE, it is the recession period, and EF, it is the depression period, and FG, it is the recovery period. And next is the 4 phases of trade cycle. Schumpeter has divided the trade cycle into 4 phases. One is the prosperity, recession, 3rd one is the depression, and 4th one is the recovery period. And the diagram can be explained, the 4 phases of trade cycle. And the 4 stages is here. The first stage, it is the prosperity stage, that is the A to B. And second stage, it is the recession stage, that is the B to C. And 3rd stage, it is the depression stage, it is the C to D. And 4th stage, it is the recovery stage, it's the D to E. And we can explain the one by one. The first one, depression period. And during depression, all the level of economic activity is extremely low. That is the income, employment, output, prices and profit and others, etc. And there are ideal resources and the fall in price that is leads to fall in the wages, interest, profits and others, etc. And during this period, all the section of the people are suffer. The next is recovery period. Recovery denotes the turning point of the business cycle from the depression to prosperity. And during this period, all the level of economic activity is slowly rising. And this period, the demand for commodities goes up, and there is an increasing investment, bank loan, and advances. Next is the prosperity period. And prosperity period, during this period, all the level of economic activity are very high. That is the employment, income, output, prices, and profits, etc. And there are no ideal resources. There is no wastage of material. And the rise in price will lead to the rise in the wages, interest, profits, and others, etc. And this period, the bank can give more loans and advances. And during this period, the optimism is everywhere. And next is the recession period. And during the recession, when the entrepreneurs, they realize their mistake, they want to reduce their investment and employment. And fall in employment, that is leads to the fall in income, expenditure, prices, and profits, etc. And this period, the optimism gives a way to pessimism, and the bank can reduce the loans and advances. And that's all. These are also to be known as the 4 phases of trade cycle. The next is the theories of trade cycle. And there are the 2 important theories of trade cycle. One is the monetary theories of trade cycle, and other one is the non-monetary theories of trade cycle. And my topic is covered only on the non-monetary theories of trade cycle. We can see one by one. The first one, sunspot theory or the climatic theory. And this theory, it is the oldest theory of trade cycle. And this theory was associated with W.S. Jevons and later on developed by H.C. Moore. And according to this theory, the spot that appear on the sun, it's influence the climate condition. When the spot appears and on the sun, it influence the climate condition. When the spot appears, it will affect the rainfall, and hence agricultural crops are affected. There is the crop failure that will result in depression. On the other hand, the spot did not appear on the sun and rainfall is good. It's leading to increase in agricultural production, the prosperity in the economy. So the variation in the climate are so regular that the depression is followed by the prosperity. And next is, this theory is not accepted today. So the trade cycle is the complex phenomenon and it cannot be associated with the climate condition. And the next is the psychological theory. And this theory was developed by A.C. Pico. And according to Pico, the main cause for trade cycle is the optimism and the pessimism among the business people and bankers. During this period of good trade, the entrepreneurs become optimistic, which leads to increase in production. And the feeling of the optimism is spread to others. Hence, the investment are increased beyond the limit, and hence there is overproduction, which result in the losses. The entrepreneurs become pessimistic and reduce their investment and production. Thus, the fluctuation are due to optimism, it's leading to prosperity, and the pessimism is leading to depression. And the criticism of the psychological theory. And this theory is enabled to explain the occurrence of the boom and starting of the revival. Revival means it's the recovery. And further, this theory, it fails to explain the periodicity of trade cycle. The next is the overinvestment theory. Arthur Spithoff and D.H. Robertson have developed the overinvestment theory. And it is based on the Say's law of market. And Spithoff has believed that the overproduction in one sector, it leads to overproduction in other sectors. Suppose there is overproduction and excess supply in one sector, which result in the fall in price and income of the people employed in that sector. The fall in income will lead to decline in demand for goods and services produced by other sectors. This will create the overproduction in other sectors. Suppose, Spithoff has pointed out that the overinvestment is the cause of trade cycle. The overinvestment is due to indivisibility of the investment and excess supply of bank credit. He gives one best example, the railway company, which lays down one more track to avoid traffic congestion. But this may result in the excess capacity because the additional traffic may not be sufficient to utilize the second track fully. And the criticism of the overinvestment theory, the overinvestment and overproduction are encouraged by the monetary factors. The rise in price may induce the entrepreneurs to increase their investment. It's leading to overproduction. And next is the Schumpeter's innovation theory. And J.A. Schumpeter has developed the innovation theory, of the trade cycle. The innovation include the discovery of new product, opening of a new market, reorganization of an industry, and development of the new methods of production. And these innovation may reduce the cost of production and may shift the demand curve. Thus, the innovation may bring about the change in economic condition. Suppose the full employment level, the innovation in the form of the new product has been introduced. And the innovation is financed by the bank loans. And due to the innovation, it is the new product to become the successful one, and other entrepreneur will also produce the similar product. This will result in the cumulative expansion and prosperity. When the innovation is adapted by many, so the supernormal profit will be competing way. The firms incurring losses will go out of business, employment, output, and income fall, resulting the depression in the economy. The next is the criticism of the Schumpeter's innovation theory. And there are the two important criticisms of this theory. The first one, Schumpeter theory is based on two assumptions, namely full employment and that innovation is being financed by banks. But full employment is an unrealistic assumption. No country in the world has achieved the full employment level. Further, the innovation is usually financed by promoters and not by banks. And the second criticism is the innovation is not only the cause of business cycle, and there are many other causes which have not been analyzed by Schumpeter. And next is the Keynes theory of trade cycle. And Keynes does not develop the complete and pure theory of trade cycle. And according to Keynes, the effective demand is composed of consumption and investment expenditure. Therefore, the change in total expenditure, that is the consumption and investment expenditure, affect the effective demand, will bring about the fluctuation in economic activity. And Keynes believed that the consumption expenditure is stable. The fluctuation only in investment expenditure that will bring about the change in the employment, output, income, prices, and profit, etc. The investment, it depends on the two factors. One is the rate of interest and other one is marginal efficiency of capital. And Keynes assumed that the rate of interest are stable. The marginal efficiency of capital determines the investment. The marginal efficiency of capital, it depends on two factors. One is the prospective yield and other one is the supply price of the capital asset. When the marginal efficiency of capital is raised, that is leads to the employment, income, output, all these are also increases, will result in the prosperity in the economy. On the opposite direction, the marginal efficiency of capital is low. That is leads to fall in income, employment, output, prices, and profit. That will result in the depression in the economy. And next is the criticism of the Keynes theory of trade cycle. The first criticism is the Keynes theory of trade cycle. It's the main causes the fluctuation in the marginal efficiency of capital. The term marginal efficiency of capital and the concept is too vague. And so this theory is similar to the Pico's psychological theory. He has ignored the real factors. And second one is the Keynes assumed that the rate of interest is stable, but in reality, the rate of interest, it is one of the important role to play in the decision-making process of entrepreneurs. And third one is the Keynes does not explain the periodicity of trade cycle. And periodicity is a depression and recession period. When the rate of interest are rise, it's due to the strong liquidity preference. When the rate of interest is fall, it's a weakness of liquidity preference, but in reality, the rate of interest are high. And that's all. These are also to be known as the non-monetary theories of trade cycle. And thank you for your patient listening. And I thank Madam Principal and Revered Ambas for giving me the excellent opportunity for me. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.